everyone. I'm really so excited for this episode because we have really amazing guest and amazing topic. Everyone is struggling with the scaling their apps with the ad platforms, especially in the meta ads, or it's also not easy to select the platform when you try to scale your app, and I think I found the best guest for this topic. And welcome, Samet. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm excited to be here and I'm doing very well. I'm ready to help.
Thanks. Great. We actually recorded another episode with you. When you try to, let's say you grow your app with App Store optimization and other channels, and it is time to create this scaling area with the paid ads. And when it comes to you have the money, for example, or you got some investment and you need to spend the money and you need to acquire users with the paid ads. It is the most important stage for all the developers and indies, the founders, and that's why we decided to create this episode today. And first of all, maybe we can start learning more about you. What is your background? Where do you live? What are you doing with the growth? How did you start? This kind of thing, please.
So I think I've been kind of all over the place in terms of genre of apps. I've been in gaming, I've been in e-commerce, also subscription apps over the last, let me say, since Meta invented mobile marketing. But one thing is fixed. Meta is still successful, the most successful platform, and user psychology is more or less the same because the platform is everybody's using their phone. So either you're downloading a game or an e-commerce app or a subscription app, the psychology is very similar. That's why I'm helping out different apps from different stages. I do have my own app, which is in the stealth and soft launch mode. So I totally get everybody's pains here. But I'm also helping out other companies that are trying to grow, even the companies that are growing, but they are missing some essential parts in their growth journey. And that's why I called myself, after all those years, growth therapist, because the work is that I try to understand what their core issue is and try to put the efforts, which is like super limited, to the best places. And I think therapy is about that, just listening and giving the solution that fits to the person or company.
Yeah, it's really great. And you're working with the Meta for years, right? And
Yeah.
that's why we invited you here. And you also know some struggles as a founder. It's also great.
Yeah.
I'm also an indie developer. I also have some side projects. I try to be active and updated on the App Store and Play Store, and it's really nice to have some side projects to understand the feelings of the other founders. And
yes, stakes are high. I have an app, you have an app, so these questions and answers are real as you can get.
Yeah. And I think we can start with the first question. Let's say we have a subscription-based apps. All of your audience, they have apps, or they're just planning to submit an app on the App Store or Play Store. When it comes to choosing the right platform for an app, the first question is, what is the best strategy for choosing the best platform?
I'll try to give the short answer first and then give some explanations so that people can follow easy. The best chances are on Meta, then on Google, then maybe Apple Search Ads, and then along maybe TikTok. And the reason for that is, let me expand on that. So if Meta doesn't work, then none of them will technically work. I mean, I'm imagining the hardest part of Meta being creatives, and then let's exclude that from the equation. But Meta will bring you the best users if you know how to use it well. And Google is also like almost 50-50 share with how much it can spend and how much it can bring you. But Google is harder to scale on iOS and easier on Android. But Android users also don't pay as well as iOS users. So Google is a maybe. But again, I've heard people doing successful things on Google Android campaigns, even on iOS campaigns. So I'm not dismissing anything, but the best chances are on Meta. When it comes to Apple search ads, most of the cases it's nice to have. Again, there are some exceptions that long tail keywords bring them amazing CPIs and amazing intentional users. But for most of us, it's expensive, it's not scalable, although it can give you some clues about App Store optimization, which I'm not going to touch upon now. And the latest thing is TikTok. And I think this is like an honorable mention because there are a lot of news out there. If you're following LinkedIn or Twitter, people, scaling crazy and, videos being watched millions of times, but you need to be really careful what you're doing there because most of those apps are very Gen Z oriented. You only see the successes. So 90+% will be failures and you might be one of them. Same for Meta, obviously, but TikTok is a very special case. And I think it even requires its own podcast, how to scale with TikTok, how to scale with UGC and Spark ads, etc.
Cool. Yeah, I agree with the TikTok side because I also see a lot of posts on Twitter and how I grew my app with TikTok organic without spending $0 and something like this. But yeah, it's nice to have, maybe nice to learn the strategies. But if you want to scale your business and if you want to predict your future revenue, and I think you definitely know the biggest ad platforms like Meta and Google and Apple Search Ads as well. Let's say we choose the Meta ads for our subscription apps and we want to scale and we want to create the campaigns from scratch, or we already tested some campaigns and we failed, we lost money. Because as I mentioned before, I have a lot of friends, close friends, they're always asking me that I spend thousands and I got no installs, no subscriptions, this kind of stuff, and I immediately stop my campaign on this kind of things. Maybe you also hear some stories like this. That's why the second question will be, do you have a checklist, to share with the founders? What is the best campaign structure for the Meta? And this kind of things, maybe we can start talking about the best structure for Meta ads, for subscription-based apps.
Okay, so there are a few things that we can address here, and this might be a longer answer. So I'll just try to compartmentalize this. And I understand the pain of everybody. It's easy to spend money there and see no return. Let's talk about really the overall structure that I'm following that brings me success. Phase 1 is test creatives with install campaigns. Phase 2 is take the winners, and that must be very few of those creatives, to conversion optimization like trial or purchase, or we can talk about that. So that's really the main part. And if we get to house and I would say definitely produce a lot of creatives as much as you can, take your camera, ask people, use those AI softwares, try to create as many original concepts as possible and test them on an Android campaign. Let's say you have tested 200 creatives. Again, testing creative and how much to spend, how many days to wait is a bigger question, but I'll try to broaden it step by step. So test those 200 on Android. Maybe 10 will rise above and they will get the most spending, which is one of the very important KPIs there. Then maybe take those 10 and test it on an iOS install campaign. And maybe 2 will spend the most money there, maybe 60% or more. So these are your hero creatives that you can put on a conversion optimization campaign that you're not afraid to spend money on. And that will show you the potential of your app. So if Meta is not working, it's not only because your creatives weren't working, your CPI was high, your creative wasn't intentional enough, but it could be also your pricing, your onboarding, your value. These also have to make it work. But Meta is a good mirror to show you if something is going to work. So I'll just stop there and then take your follow-up questions. if there are any.
Yeah, actually, maybe I can ask some personal question. I was also testing some meta ads. You were talking about the testing creatives. It's actually a big topic, but just a random question. Is there any way to say the meta that I have 10 creatives with the 10 different ad sets, for example, but sometimes it spends the more money on one creative than the other creatives, they don't get any impressions or something like this. Is the problem, or is it just
You
me?
know, this is again, this I see this kind of like some creatives getting zero spend in very Andromeda, very meta Andromeda, very 2025 problem. I mean, yes, spend will be disproportional, but this year especially, I'm seeing creatives getting zero spend. And how I solve it is, again, this is not for everybody. You know, you can either put an automated campaign rule or ad rule that it will stop spending after, let's say, €2 each, $2 each, or you can literally sit down and stop them manually so that the other are getting spent. But I'm really just focusing on getting few dollars and that's it. So few clicks are just enough for this algorithm to kind of behave as it should. But the most important metric, believe me or not, it's not even IPM, which I'm a big fan of. It's not even CPM, CPI, definitely not. It's the spend. So if most of the spend goes to somewhere in an install campaign to get your best creative result, spend is the ultimate KPI there. Trust it. There could be days that you will see the CPI increasing. There could be some days you will see one install from one ad that has an amazing CPI. Meta knows it all. It won't scale. That's why it's not spending. So trust it. But also don't put one ad per ad set. Please maybe bundle them 3 to 5 per ad set because it's easier to manage. And again, in my logic, you can stop them. You can even put 10 of them in one ad set if you're stopping them so that they get enough exposure.
Cool. You mentioned some metrics, and I was about to ask what is the most important metric, maybe the most important metrics. What are your top metrics, for example, when you check a campaign, and what's your advice to other founders?
Again, super simple for, let's say, for creative optimization, purely creative optimization, the most spend is usually the most successful ad. But to guess if you are ready to scale, you need to look at IPM in an install campaign in US, for instance. And if you have less than 5 IPM, you might have harder chances. And if you have 10, 15, go for it. You know, your campaign is ready. And IPM means install per 1,000 impression. And that should be around, 5 to 50 for a US install campaign and a broad audience. But when it comes to conversions, definitely ROAS is super important. So return on ad spend. How much are you making back from what you spent? That's a sobering question to answer, but don't run away from the hard finance questions. But also another KPI to look at is number of events. So you need to give at least a day 5 events to optimize for Meta for a campaign properly. If it's a trial, if it's a purchase, or if it's a custom event that combines them, like we can again expand on that, but I'll just leave it there.
And also another issue or maybe struggle is choosing the right countries. You know, you mentioned US, but how we can choose, for example, for creative testing, how we can choose the right countries? What is your strategy here?
I'll tell you where I arrived currently. So what I do is I used to do only US, and I've also seen that some countries are very receptive to some certain apps. And maybe that's the moment, maybe people are spending less on those countries. So right now what I'm doing is I literally have like this high RPD revenue per download. This is how I call it, high RPD countries. And that is literally like all the tier 1 West English speaking countries, all the, let's say, affluent countries in Europe, plus UK and Australia and New Zealand, and you can even add here like Hong Kong, Korea, Japan. But the key is when you're combining them, make sure that your at set level language setting is on English. So what I'm doing is basically I try to target everybody, well, except in this case some expats that are not using their phone in English in these countries, but everybody in US, Australia, Canada, UK, Ireland, New Zealand, etc. Plus all these other countries like Italy, Spain, all these Scandinavian countries, everything that I just counted. There you can also target English-speaking countries, English-speaking people, and that's how I set it right now.
Cool. I also learned this similar campaign structure from my friend last month or something. Yeah.
Nice.
It's yeah, but it's always changing, right? The strategies, your ways, how you create the campaigns. It's all about learnings, and I don't know if it's also same for you, right? It's
always changing. Like right now, I'm telling you the best version at this particular time. It could change when we have another call.
Yeah. Maybe I can also continue with the advantage campaigns. What are your thoughts about it? Should developers trust? I mean, can they use fully automated campaigns, or do you advise some manual changes on the campaign structure?
So this is gonna be a controversial one. I'm sorry, pro algo people. I love algorithm, but again, I'm telling you this as somebody who is doing this for plus 10 years. So also, it's not as easy as it sounds, what I'm explaining. It requires a lot of experience. It requires a lot of trial and error and perspective. So take it as a grain of salt. But what I'm doing is I would not let Advantage campaign optimize for install, like to find the best creatives. So for creatives, definitely test as many, like focus on creating different styles and try to test them on an install campaign, a manual one. You don't have to even set any audience limits. I advise actually not to if you don't have to, but set it free, but use it manual so that you can also do these like nitty-gritty changes we talked about, that like every ad gets spent in a very quick way because you have a limited budget. So make sure that all of them gets to spend a little bit. And once you have maybe like, let's say you tested 100 different ads and hopefully 1,000, to be honest. When you have that, as a solo entrepreneur, as a small company, you can go to Advantage. But then also signal is super important. So this is also kind of going to the medium advanced category. Let's say if you're optimizing for trials, and if you end up getting cheaper trials from, let's say, younger audience, but they're not converting well, and your conversion comes 3 days, 7 days later, that means you're burning money. So that's why you need to be really careful also with your signaling. And it's called signal engineering. There's always like almost these two kinds of people, as if they together can't exist, like signal engineering or creative targeting. So I think you should do both. Your creative needs to be authentic, and your signals should be as true to your finances as possible. By that, I mean, let me just also expand this for a bit. You can create a custom event which says, for instance, trial started but not canceled in the same hour. You can even combine that if you have multiple packages. For instance, maybe you have a yearly package with trial, but also a weekly package without trial, and they're selling more or less the same. So, or you guess that they will sell more or less the same. You can then say maybe trial not canceled within 1 hour plus purchase events. So you can bundle them and signal it to Meta. But again, these are very advanced things. Unfortunately, you need to read a lot of guides and make a lot of non-hallucinating ChatGPT research for this. Not for everybody, but yes, make sure that your signals are strong.
Yeah, cool. I was about to ask should we send extra signals to Meta, but you already answered this question. And what about some questions like onboarding completed, or if we're asking some questions on onboarding, can we send those signals, or just we need to send?
It's a really good question. Honestly, this is Again, something that seems easy to answer, but not easy. But short, make sure that your most important signal is sent to Meta within the first few minutes, if not, first few seconds. I would say start with trial and purchase, definitely. Of course, you need to have an eye on the cost per install, etc. So install has to be there and needs to be monitored. But I wouldn't optimize for onboarding. I mean, you can share it and then you can see your cost per onboarding, but if you have a product analytics tool, you would already guess it, how many people are completing the onboarding, etc. So I would definitely not optimize for onboarding. I would definitely optimize for purchase and trial. Well, you could say, hey, so far I've been getting, I've been testing and maybe ASO is bringing me something and my install to paid ratio is around 2%. And that means like, if my CPI is $1, am I going to pay $50 for a purchase? Well, I have some good and bad news. The good news is purchase campaigns will bring much higher intentional users. So install to paid ratio, if you see organic 2%, it could end up 10-20% install to paid ratio on a purchase campaign on Meta. Or if your trial is around 10%, it could end up 30% on a trial campaign. So these surprises, get ready for that. So the bad news is when you're optimizing for install, CPI could be an amount X. And if you're optimizing for purchase, your CPI could go up to 5x. I mean, I've seen some miraculous accounts where CPI of an install campaign and purchase campaign are very similar, but usually it's not the case.
I also really wonder your thoughts on AI UGC creatives. The creative topic is really huge. I think we need extra session for just talking about the creative testing and this kind of stuff. And what do you think about, because I saw a lot of case studies, but they're mostly coming from the AI UGC companies. They're trying to prove their quality. But what do you think about using, because when I check the Facebook ad library, I see a lot of UGC ads, but what do you think about these AI UGC creatives?
Again, I will talk from my perspective and my
Yeah.
real cases, and also I'm also reading all of those things. Literally, I'm going through newsletters and LinkedIn posts and whatnot. So at least I'll be truthful to that. I think the short answer is focus on cost per winner, meaning how much time and money are you spending to create an AI UGC ad versus can you find an alternative and try to compare the difference. Maybe you create 100 AI UGC ads, and maybe if you get on the camera and then shoot some hooks and then kind of go to explaining your app, and you can create maybe 10 of that. And maybe one of those 10 will be better than one of those 100 creatives. So cost per winner is a very popular term now in these areas. Make sure that you are actually not just focusing on volume, but the quality. I'll give you very concrete examples. So when I am doing creatives, definitely, I mean, CapCut is also AI, right? Like there are a lot of stuff that you can do, like you can add voices very easily, cut very easily. So learn CapCut, don't run away from it. Again, a simple hook that you can create yourself and an app explanation goes a long way. So you also don't have to run away from that. Show your face, don't be afraid. But if you want to focus on AI UGC, currently I'm using a few tools. For instance, I use, again, CapCut is definitely needless to say. I use Higgsfield, not a promotion. Higgsfield is sort of combining all these Sora tools and whatnot, and then you can create something, but I don't see myself using them directly. I still need to adjust things on CapCut. Like that's a good hook creator, or that's a good B-roll, but still, we're not still there. Maybe in 2 years we will be there, but it's really hard to make something. Again, these look a little bit fake, and when everybody do those things really easily, the quality bar increases. So users expect more, better hooks, etc. Make sure that you are actually producing quality. Also, one last note, when you create a creative, that's already a big step. Don't leave it just there. Take the hook, change the hook, change the story, change the script of the story, and make sure that you're actually creating a few versions of that. And again, maybe we need to go another session for this, but one more note, do not scream your app. It can do this, it can do this, it can do this. Focus on the pain, focus on the emotion of the person, hook them, and then maybe after 5 seconds, try to say, and the app does that and that. So don't jump on that. Think about the person who is buying this.
Cool. I also have another question. Maybe I should ask this question in the beginning, but I really wonder, does Meta work with the all kind of categories, like all of the niches? Or why I'm asking, for example, if you have photo video app or AI video generation app or this kind of categories, it really works great. It's my personal opinion, but let's say you have a utility category app or productivity category app. Can we also use Meta ads for promote our app on this platform, or what do you think about it? Or do we need to choose another ad platform, for example?
What would be your alternative for productivity or utility?
The Google search, maybe. I mean, Google Ads or Apple search ads.
I mean, look, Apple search ads is super easy to get on, right? You can try that and then see if you're getting good CPIs and good conversions. So definitely don't be afraid of trying all those things like as a side, because Meta requires definitely more knowledge, and you need to be very good with creatives, as opposed to, you say, Google search, which is like actually Google app campaigns, but if you don't put any creatives, it will become like Google display network, Google search kind of thing, which is also a good idea. Again, I've seen companies also finding success with Google ads and optimizing for purchase, optimizing for ROAS. Definitely you can do that, but again, everything is a balance. So for instance, Google would require more budget. It would be less stable if you try to change something. But it's a good place for high intent users if you don't use all those creatives and then let the copywriting works. You can even understand your user motivation if you keep testing your copywriting. What are the most, let's say, you will probably test different USPs. For instance, you would see what are the USPs that are coming above the surface. So that's super useful already. Or for Apple search ads, if you can make Apple search ads work on a volume, then you're done. Your app is already ready in terms of pricing, onboarding, paywall, value, everything. So if you can make something on Apple search ads, for instance, in a scalable manner, you are just one hero creative away to scale Meta with that app. Apple search ads, Google definitely could be tried. Again, TikTok could be tried. But also maybe you actually take the extra step and try to make the hardest one work, because if you can make that one work, everything will also work.
For example, when I talk to our clients, Adaptee clients, if they run paid ads, they're also optimizing a lot in the app side. I mean, they're showing paywalls in different placements, like after onboarding, maybe after a feature, or in the settings, and this kind of placements. And they run a lot of paywall A/B tests, pricing tests. They're showing different offers. I think it's also really it's really helpful for when you try to grow, because we talk a lot of great things about optimizing the ads and creating the right structure. Inside the app, there are also a lot of great ways, and that's why we are doing this podcast episodes, because we also try to help with the best practices for growing your app, I would say.
And Adaptee, as far as I know, Adaptee also offers these like painful things, makes them simplified. Like there is onboarding tool, for instance, right? You can create onboarding for paywalls, etc. So these are also not to be scared of if you're using the right tool, actually.
Definitely. For example, Adapty has an integration with the Facebook ads, Meta ads, and let's say you can create different paywalls with related to your ad creative. For example, if some user coming from Meta ads, you can show different paywalls. It's also really helpful. It's a great way to target some users and segment them correctly and show relevant prices, relevant paywalls. Let's say you can create a paywall related to your ad creative. It's
I mean,
really
that's also like not just ad creative, like which I can understand for photo apps, for instance, like being super relevant, but also, for instance, showing Meta users no trial paywalls because I need that signal, right? Like that is also a good idea. Whereas maybe your organic users want to, since they have a little less intention, they might want to try it first. So these are definitely good ideas to test.
Yeah, definitely. It's really a good idea actually. You can create segments in Adaptive almost one or two clicks. It's really easy. You can create a Facebook segment and you can show different paywalls so those users to sending some trial events, as you mentioned. I think I asked my planned questions, but
again, many questions, but maybe that's a perfect opportunity to remind people that they can comment, and I'll personally respond them if they send it in the first 24 hours of watching.
It was an idea actually. If our audience will comment on the YouTube below and Samet will reply all the questions in 24 hours, if you are really fast, you can get expert answers. Why I'm trying to stop here, because I really want to see you in another episode. Maybe we can also create another one and we can get the comments and we can get some interest and we can record another one if you're also okay with it.
That is the kindest way to stop a podcast on time. I want to do more. That's why I want to stop now. That's a good cliffhanger. Like it's like a TV series.
Yeah, really, it's real.
Yeah, like depending on the number of likes, folks.
Yeah. And what is the best way to reach you out? I mean, LinkedIn or email?
LinkedIn is definitely a good one. Definitely. Please search for Samet Durgun and you will see me.
Yeah, I will also add your contact on the description. You can find Samet on LinkedIn and you can also send message if you have any questions to me. I can try to meet you with the Samet also. And thank you everyone for listening our episode. I really enjoyed this episode, and thank you Samet for joining. I'm really so happy to have an episode with you.
Murat, thank you. It was great.
Yeah, see you in the next episode. I hope. Okay, bye.